You open the app. You swipe. You feel a small spark of hope, then nothing. Then you do it again. But the real answer for why this feels so addictive and so empty is far stranger than you think. Your brain was not built for this. It was built for something much smaller, much slower, and much more physical. For most of human history, finding a partner meant living near them, working near them, watching how they treated their friends, their family, their animals. It took weeks. It took months. There was no swipe. Today, you can see 1,000 faces in an hour. Your brain treats every one of them like a real opportunity. That is the trap. Anthropologist Helen Fisher spent decades studying the biology of romantic attraction. Her research found that the brain's reward circuitry, especially the dopamine system, lights up not when you find love, but when you anticipate it. The chase itself is the reward. Notice that. Now think about what a dating app actually is. It is a chase generator. Every swipe is a tiny bet. Every match is a tiny win. Your dopamine system cannot tell the difference between a potential soulmate and a slot machine. To your ancient brain, they look the same. This is not a flaw in your willpower. It is a mismatch. Your brain evolved in an environment of scarcity. A small number of potential partners. A small number of decisions. Choosing was rare, so choosing felt significant. Now choosing is constant. And when something that used to be rare becomes constant, your brain stops treating it as meaningful. It starts treating it as a habit. Psychologist Barry Schwartz called this the paradox of choice. His research showed that when people are given too many options, they often become less satisfied with whatever they eventually pick. Not because the option is worse. Because the sheer volume of alternatives makes every choice feel provisional, replaceable, temporary. Apply that to a person, to a relationship, to someone you matched with last week. When you know there are 1,000 more profiles one swipe away, the person in front of you starts to feel optional. Not because they are, but because your brain has been trained by the interface itself to treat every option as disposable. Here is where it gets stranger. Evolutionary psychologists have long studied something called mate value assessment. In ancestral environments, you could only compare yourself to the people in your village. Maybe a few dozen potential partners across your entire life. Your sense of your own worth, romantically, was calibrated to that small pool. Now your brain is being shown hundreds of options a day, many of them curated to look exceptionally attractive. Your ancient mind does not understand that these are filtered, edited, algorithm-selected images. It just sees competition. Endless competition. So what happens? Your perceived mate value drops. Not your actual value. Your perceived value. Studies on social comparison, going back to the original work of psychologist Leon Festinger in the 1950s, found that people constantly and often unconsciously rank themselves against whoever is nearby. Online, nearby now means everyone. This is the evolutionary trap. The tool that was supposed to expand your options for connection is quietly making you feel less worthy of connection. And it is doing this by hijacking a system that was never designed to process this much information. Think about what courtship looked like for nearly all of human history. You met someone through your community. You saw them in context. You saw how they spoke to elders, how they handled stress, how they laughed. Attraction built slowly, layered with information your senses gathered without you even trying. Now imagine trying to gather that same information from a photo and a 2-line bio. Your brain fills in the gaps. It always has. But now it is filling in the gaps for hundreds of people, building entire imagined personalities from almost nothing. And then feeling disappointed when the real person does not match the imagined one. This is sometimes called the ideal alternative effect. The fictional version of someone built from a few photos and a clever bio can never lose an argument, never have a bad day, never accidentally say the wrong thing. Real people do all of those things. So the real person, the one actually sitting across from you, starts to feel like a downgrade from someone who never existed. Marcus Aurelius wrote, almost 2,000 years ago, about the danger of being pulled in 1,000 directions by things outside your control. He was not talking about dating apps, obviously, but he was talking about exactly this kind of mental fragmentation. The mind that cannot settle because it is constantly scanning for something better. The Stoics had a word for the kind of attention that gets pulled outward, endlessly, never landing. They considered it one of the great threats to a calm mind, not because new things are bad, but because a mind in constant search mode never actually experiences what is in front of it. Here is the modern mirror. You are sitting across from someone. They are telling you about their day. And some part of your brain is wondering who else messaged you tonight. That is not a personal failure. That is your ancient brain doing exactly what it evolved to do, just in an environment soaked with far more stimuli than it was ever designed to filter. So what do you do with this? You cannot uninstall the apps. Well, you can, but that is not really the point. The point is understanding what is happening underneath. When you feel that restless urge to check for someone new, that is not your heart telling you something is wrong with your current connection. That is your dopamine system reacting to novelty the same way it would react to a flashing light or a ringing bell. Knowing that does not make the feeling disappear, but it changes what you do with it. You can notice the urge without obeying it. You can recognize that the fictional, perfect alternative in your head is exactly that, fictional. And you can remember that for nearly 200,000 years, human connection was built slowly through repeated exposure, shared experience, and time. Nothing about your biology has caught up to a world where a relationship can be evaluated and discarded in the time it takes to drink a coffee. The tool is new, the brain is ancient, and the gap between them is where all that quiet dissatisfaction lives. So tonight, when you open the app again and you feel that small spark of hope followed by nothing, remember what you are actually feeling. Is not proof that something better is out there. Is proof that your ancient brain is doing exactly what it was built to do, in a world it was never built for.